Bonjour everyone, and welcome back to the Waves of Your Soul. I am your humble French tarot reader Marine, and today we're going to be looking at my pop culture inspired tarot decks, oracle decks, playing cards, all of the decks that I own that are related to some of my favorite books, favorite movies, music, video games, all of the decks in my collection that relate to pop culture. I thought it would be super fun to start sharing my collection this way by themes. One, because it's a little bit easier that way, so we can do it in chunks. I don't know how often I'll be doing those kind of like mini collection videos, but it would be fun starting by sharing my pop culture decks. I'll be able to share my nature decks, my mythology decks, fantasy decks, my classical decks. The girl has a lot of decks and there's definitely a lot of themes, so this is a series of videos that could go for ages, but today I wanted to start with my pop culture one because it's fun and because I felt like it. If you're new here, you should know I am a chaotic deck goblin, meaning that my taste ranges from super cute to spooky to fantasy to classic. I used to say I had eclectic taste, but let's be real, it's chaotic more than anything, and that definitely translates in all the decks I'm going to be sharing with you today and all the future mini collection videos I'll be doing on my channel. So before I get into it, just a little bit of a disclaimer. This is truly done in the spirit of sharing with fellow deck goblins and fellow deck lovers and people who share a similar passion as me for the cards, tarot decks, oracle decks, playing cards and all of that. This is not meant to be a QVC channel, meaning that some of these decks are still in print, you'll be able to find them, some of them are not. I will make sure to put all the names of the decks I'm mentioning in the description box below, so that if you want to, on your own, go to Google, search for them, do your own research, you're welcome to. At least you'll have the name. And in the description box you will also find all of my other social media links, other videos of mine you may want to check out. And of course, if you're not subscribed yet and you are enjoying this video, make sure to subscribe, as there's going to be plenty more videos to come. So without further ado, let's look at my pop culture decks. We've got music inspired decks, video games, movies, books. There's definitely a lot. I'm a huge pop culture fan. I'm excited to share them with you. Let's go. Before I start sharing with you some decks, let's talk very quickly about why would you want a pop culture tarot or oracle deck. Because I know a lot of people think of tarot as sacred, as something that is very, to be put on a pedestal, that shouldn't be meddled with, that we need to respect traditions. Whilst a lot of that is true, I also believe that, as many think tarot is an art form, it's also a form of media, and so obviously it's going to evolve with our times, and part of our current culture, part of our current evolution comes from pop culture. This is just something that in our day and age is very much part of our culture. We all have favorite TV shows, favorite movies, favorite books that we relate to, even video games, and so it's not surprising that tarot has adapted to that as well. When I hear people complaining about the fact that, oh, tarot shouldn't be this desecrated like this, we should respect the occult esoteric background and all of that, it makes me laugh, to be honest, because tarot is what you want it to be. If you want it to be sacred, it will be. Even if you're using a deck that's about Star Wars, you can still build a sacred relationship to it. The main thing here is intention. So the deck in itself doesn't really matter. It's how you interact with it that matters. And so your own interaction with it, whether you want to play cards, whether you want to use it for fortune telling, whether you want to use it for introspection, whether you want to use it for reading for you or for others, your intention is what matters, not the actual deck. And yeah, that's could seem hypocritical from someone who owns a lot of different decks, but the reason why I own a lot of different decks is because I enjoy the artwork, I enjoy the details, I enjoy the different type of vibes that they give me. But if my intention is not on point, it doesn't matter the deck I use, whether it's a very esoteric occult deck or whether it's a deck that's inspired by again, Star Wars. That being said, I do agree that in some cases, some tarot decks inspired by pop culture are cash grabs. And that's a shame, because there's a very fine line between a deck that is inspired by a world, a book, a movie, a TV show, whatever it may be, that still contains and retain the essence of tarot archetypes, versus a deck that literally pretends to be a tarot deck but that doesn't really hold any of the traditional structure, that hasn't got any intention, again, intention being the key word behind it, and that just feels like a cash grab, that it's trying to pry upon the people who love that fandom for them to spend their money without giving anything back. So that's the trickiness about pop culture deck, and only you will know a deck, one, that is going to resonate with your own pop culture preferences, and two, that will actually have enough intention and enough cohesion and enough hand behind it that you feel like you can read with it properly, that you feel like it will bring something to you as a tarot reader. So the decks I'm going to be sharing with you are pop culture decks that to me feel like they still have enough intent behind them, that they bring enough background, story, lore, that it actually adds layers to my readings. But I've definitely had pop culture decks that were cash grabs, that didn't have any intention, that felt like they were just trying to get money, but without any really creativity behind them, any kind of soul behind them, and that were just unusable for me as a tarot reader, and I got rid of them. So I can understand how pop culture decks are not for everyone. However, I disagree that they are all not real tarot decks, as I've heard some people say, because to me, that's not true, and that's just my personal opinion. I will argue that some of my decks that are rooted in a certain lore, a certain story, a certain characters, bring even more to me, to my readings, than some decks that are just a traditional RWS, for example, because I have my knowledge of traditional RWS, and let's say it's depicted in the deck as well, but on top of that, I can add the backstory of the character, the lore of the world, how I know the story goes, or how it ends, or how different characters interact together. That's gonna add so many layers to a reading versus how a traditional RWS would be depicted. So there's definitely something to be said about pop culture inspired decks. However, I can totally agree that we're not all born equal, so you have to approach them with caution. You have to figure out the ones that speak to you or not, and today I'm going to be sharing with you the ones that to me are definitely effective, both in the way that they depict a pop culture theme that I love, a lore that I enjoy, a world that I love, and that are very efficient at being used for reading the cards. We'll start with playing cards, and then we'll move on to Oracle, and we'll finish with Tarot, because as a huge Tarot lover, this is what I have the most of, tarot decks. I don't have many playing cards or oracle decks that are related to pop culture, so we'll start with playing cards first. They are both music related actually, and again, I don't know if they're still in print or not. I'll put the name of them in the description box, and then you're welcome to do your own research. The first one is Music Genius playing cards. This was a gift from one of my lovely friends for one of my birthdays, and I'm a big music lover and I'm a big card lover, so this was definitely the perfect gift. Here are the backs, and this is truly a fun little playing card deck that represents different artists from different genres. So we have the blues, soul and R&B suit. For the hearts we have pop. For the spades we have rock and roll, which I think is perfect for spades. And for diamonds we have folk and country, which again I think is perfect for this particular suit. So every card you have a different artist. I love using this one for picking an artist at random, and then I will go on to Google and search for like one of their songs and just let my intuition guide me. And then usually I'll just look at the lyrics, and almost like bibliomancy but for lyrics, in the sense of looking at the lyrics at a song that calls to me, and there will be a message there often from my guides, from my higher self, something very potent that will speak to me in that way. So I love using that deck for that. Also we have Björk for the Joker, which I think is perfect. A bit of everything. We have artists from the 60s, 50s, all the way to current ones like Rihanna and Beyonce. So this is great. I love this one, and yeah, like I was saying, I love using this for pulling a card, and then you look at the artists and listen to one of their songs, and then look at the lyrics and see if the lyrics have a message for me. The other playing card that I have, and look at the state of this. This is very old. I've had this for maybe 15 years now. This is the Beatles. Look at the back of this. This is destroyed. There was many games played with this. This has been definitely used to the death. So I use this for playing games mostly, to be honest. Playing cards with the Beatles singles on it, and I love the Beatles. I enjoy their music. I have some of their vinyls. It's just, I like music from that era anyway. Like the Beach Boys, the Beatles, that's my vibe. If I'm having a down day, I'll usually listen to that. Got this over 10 years ago in America. I think I got it in Portland, the Beatles exhibition at the time. And so I got this at the gift shop and played many card games with it, and it shows. Let's move on to oracle decks, and then it's just tarot from there on. So there's literally one oracle deck and then a shit ton of tarot. So the only oracle I have, and you guys can let me know if I have any fellow pop culture fans out there. Don't you feel like there's way more pop culture tarot than oracle? I really haven't seen many pop culture oracle decks. Maybe there are some, but they might not be on themes that I particularly am a fan of. That could also be one of the things. That being said, the deck I wanted to share with you today is the L'Oracle Rock by Despentes and La Rata. This is a French mass market oracle deck, so you should be able to find it on Amazon.fr. I'll make sure to put the name of it in the description box. I got this for about 2 years now, I think, and as the name suggests, it's a deck that is inspired by rock and roll, baby. And kind of like the cards I was sharing with you earlier, this is actually based on playing cards. So here are the backs. The sides are red golded, girl. English words hard. Red gilded. This is actually much like, I guess, the previous deck I was sharing with you, a playing card inspired deck where on each of the card we have a different artist or band. This time it's a lot more rock and roll inspired. However, the main thing is that whereas the playing card decks I was sharing with you before, they didn't have any kind of guidebooks or anything. They just had the deck, you know, with the cards in it, because it's literally just meant to be playing cards. This one has an awesome guidebook. I'll share it with you in a bit, where for each of the cards you have a meaning, and the way that this is written, even it's very rebellious, it's very unapologetic, it's very fuck the system. And I live. It's l'Oracle Rock. You can't give me lovey-dovey gentle messages with a deck about rock stars. Hell no, I want punk. I want messages that are like, yeah, crash the system. And so yeah, it's great. I love this Nine of Hearts with Boy George. The guidebook is actually super chunky. You can see here, it's all in French, obviously. For each of the card, you will have the picture. So we have Joan Jett for the 10 of diamonds. We have a keyword here. And then you have about 2 pages, and you always have lyrics from one of the songs from this artist, and about 2 pages for each card. And again, the way that this is written is very unapologetic, is very rebellious, is very rock and roll. So I love that. A really cool pop culture inspired deck, this specifically inspired by music. And as an oracle deck, whenever I need a kick up the butt, this is great. Always gives me that push. It's not the most gentle oracle deck I own, but when I feel bleh or meh and I need to be shaken up a little bit, this always does the job. I have 15 tarot decks to talk about, so this is definitely the chunkier part of the video. And I guess this also is going to be a little glimpse into my brain, because I guess you'll be seeing a lot of the media I enjoy, so it's also a little bit of a insight into my brain, what I like, and all of that stuff. The first one I wanted to share with you today is my Star Wars inspired tarot deck. This is created by an American creator. He has done a Star Wars deck, a turtle ninja turtle one, and another one I can't remember. These decks seem to be going in and out of print, so I will leave the Instagram of the creator in the description box, because they seem to be going in and out of print. But he's definitely someone to follow if you enjoy pop culture deck, because he has created a few of them. This one being the Star Wars one. So I've had this one since I think 2020. It's almost like a mini size. It didn't come with a box or anything, it just came like this. For my Star Wars lovers, I mean, this is it, right? It's a Star Wars deck. One of my favorite Hierophant, it's the Holophant. Come on, so cool! So yeah, this is an RWS inspired by Star Wars. There's a few that exist, there's a few that have been made. Recently I saw that there was one that had been put out on Kickstarter. This is a theme that is regularly played with. I have this one, so I didn't go with the other ones. I'm very happy with this one. We have different suits, so instead of your regular pentacle, cups, etc., we have droids. We have blasters, we have sabers, I think, and what's the last one? Tentacles. Tentacles for pentacles, which I think is hilarious. And because I get confused sometimes by the renaming, because I have very bad memory, I've made myself a little thing. Oh, there you go. You have blasters, cups, droids, wands, sabers for swords, tentacles for pentacles, and then they've renamed it, so it's Darth for death and the Sith for the devil. This is my little cheat sheet, which I recommend you doing if, like me, you have goldfish brain and you forget the renaming of cards after you've not touched the decks for 2 minutes. I really enjoy Star Wars. It's a world that my dad introduced me to. My dad really likes Star Wars, and I remember when I was little and I was sick, he would like watch Star Wars with me, all the old movies. We would play the cassette, and that would be my sick day, and he would be actually excited to be watching them with me because for him it was like a fun time. So he definitely is the one that introduced me to all of the Star Wars lore, and then as the more movies came out, we went to the cinema to watch them together. So it's that nice thing that we share, him and I, and so this deck is very nostalgic. It holds a lot of that energy, and it's just like a world that I really love. I love that we have Yoda for the star and that he's holding the 2 cups with the Force. That's awesome. Instagram account is at Star Wars Tarot, and it's by Cuteness. I think their name is Jeremy, I might be wrong. If you follow them on Instagram, they've definitely, I know they've done like a Ninja Turtle, and they've done another one which the name escapes me right now. So if you like pop culture decks anyway, definitely check them out. Whilst we're in the realm of TV shows or movies, things like that, things that you can watch, let's talk about one of my favorite Disneys, which is The Nightmare Before Christmas. So of course, I had to get The Nightmare Before Christmas. Again, this is a deck I've had for a while. I think it came out in 2020 or 2021. I've had it as soon as it came out, really. This is a mass market deck, and as the name suggests, The Nightmare Before Christmas, this is a deck inspired by this particular movie. I don't love all of Tim Burton's stuff, but Nightmare Before Christmas is definitely a movie that impacted my teenage years. You know, when I had my teenage goth phase, I liked Nightmare Before Christmas, which is not even that goth, but I was a light goth, okay? My goth phase lasted like maybe 6 months max, so I wasn't a big goth. But when I was, you know, I liked to watch Nightmare Before Christmas and some of the Tim Burton's movies, but this one is really the one that stick for me. It's the world that I enjoy the most. I love the characters, I love the music, I love the ambience, the decor. It's just something that feels very comforting. Again, for me, there's that nostalgia vibe because it's something that I watched when I was younger. And so this is a deck that was done by Insight Edition, who have done a lot of pop culture decks, who I will say a lot of their pop culture decks, I'm sorry to say, are cash grabs. They are definitely, for some of them, the type of decks where you can see that not many intention was put behind it, that it felt very rushed and that they didn't really care about it being a functional tarot deck. They just wanted to create something pop culture inspired and get it out there, which is a shame. And again, everyone is going to be different, everyone is going to relate differently. If it's like a theme that speaks to you, if it's a world, a lore that speaks to you, you might want to work with the deck even if the deck isn't perfect. In this case, I will say that out of all the Insight Edition decks that I've been able to check out, this is definitely one of the better ones. It is, even though there's like a few pipish cards, it's not boring pips at all. There's still something here that you can work with. I think a lot of the minors are also illustrated, which gives it a good mix. It's definitely not a boring pip deck. There's like, even in the pipish card, there's elements there that you can draw from, and a lot of the minors are also actually illustrated. A good intention behind this deck. It's definitely a good working deck. I love using it towards the end of the year, from like Halloween to Christmas. This does it all. That's the good thing I like about Nightmare Before Christmas, is that for me it's almost like a Christmas movie as much as it is a Halloween movie. And this definitely functions as a good tarot deck. Like, the representation that I've chosen makes sense for the characters, so you're not trying to force fit your tarot knowledge into the lore or into the world, like you have to do sometimes with certain like pop culture decks. This you can tell, okay, the meaning behind the cards makes sense, the depiction of the card makes sense, the choices of the character make sense. Obviously for the lovers, you know, we have like Sally and Jack. Even though some of the minors are more minimal, there's still something there that you can get, I think. So for me, this is definitely one of the better ones that I've seen Inside Edition do. Edge my copy in black, I should have said it didn't come like that. And the guidebook is actually quite good. I forgot to show you, but for each of the cards, you will have always upright and reverse meaning, and it depicts a little bit why things were chosen this way. So for example, you have like a Christmas elf building toys for Sandy Claus. You'll perfect your craft through careful repetition and attention to detail. Tasks will get easier for you the more often you practice. Keep going. Which I think for 8 of presents, or in this case 8 of pentacles, yeah, that makes sense. You know, so there's also in the guidebook explanation as to why they chose to depict things a certain way. I don't have anything bad to say about this deck. If you enjoy The Nightmare Before Christmas and you still want a functioning tarot deck with a good guidebook, this one is great. We're talking about Disney, so let's continue on the Disney theme. The other Inside Edition deck that I've kept, and that for me is one of the better ones that they've done, is the Villains, Disney Villains Tarot, which is again by Inside Edition, again a mass market deck. I have the French version, but this exists in English. It might even exist in other languages, I'm not sure. I would love it if they did a Disney deck, like not villains, but you know, other characters, because it would be awesome if we could use them together, like use the villains for the shadow kind of work, and then use regular, I don't know, prince and princesses deck for like light work. I think that would be awesome. Or even conscious, subconscious, things like that. So yeah, I don't know why they haven't done that Disney yet, but they're missing out. Particularly if they did a Pixar type of tarot deck, I would be there in an instant. I freaking love Pixar. Up, Ratatouille, A Bug's Life, all of that. I freaking love that. I like Disney, but I prefer Pixar for sure. So again, good guidebook for each of the cards. You have an upward and a reverse meaning. And again, you do have a little bit of an explanation as to why they've depicted each thing this way. And for the major arcana, you have even more information, and you have full-blown images. The backs look like this. It's not edged. I need to edge this in purple, actually. I really need to do that. And this was a gift from my mom, actually. She saw it in the shop and just bought it for me because she knows I like Disney stuff and I like tarot. And so this is not a deck necessarily that I would have picked up myself, because I was a little bit apprehensive with Inside Edition stuff, because like I said, some of them decks is really good, like The Nightmare Before Christmas, and some of their decks that I've seen are just very basic, I'm sorry to say, and not very engaging. So I was a little bit apprehensive at purchasing other of their decks, but my mom surprised me with this one day when she went book shopping, and I have been really enjoying it. I've had it for about a year and a half now, I think, and it's fun. Like, I have not used this one as much as my Nightmare Before Christmas, I will say, but when I'm in the mood to look at my villain side, when I'm in the mood to be a little bit naughty and nasty and mean, this is a good one to meet me where I am. And it does function as a good tarot deck. Like, the cards make sense. I love that we have Hades for this. Couldn't be anyone else. One of my favorite villains from the Disney franchise. I love Hercules. I think when I was little, I watched this way too many times. It definitely fueled my mythology loving side. And again, we have some minors that are more illustrated than others. Some of them are more pippish than others. Definitely not basic. It's giving like Pepsi Pips to me, so I enjoy that. Because look at these Two of Wands. It's like Merlin versus the Evil Witch, who, by the way, freaked me the fuck out. She was definitely one of my first nightmares. Her and the Evil Queen from Snow White. Oh my god, I watched that when I was like, I don't know, 5 or 6. It was scary. I had nightmares of her. Definitely wasn't a fan of her and of the Evil Queen in Snow White when she turns into like the crone. Ooh, I had nightmares of that, honey. I thought she was hiding under my bed. It was not fun. But yeah, I think the minor arcana is honestly just as well thought out as the majors, so I like that. Oh, funny story about Beauty and the Beast. As a French person, I watch all of my Disneys in French, right, when I was little, because we get them dubbed, right? And then when I moved to England, when I was like in my 20s, we watched Beauty and the Beast with my housemates, and that's the first time I realized that this happens to be in France. Because he has a terrible French accent, and he just sounds like Gaston. And I was like, what the fuck is that? This is an embarrassment to my nation. So yeah, made me laugh because I was 20 years old probably when I found out that Beauty and the Beast is in France. Because when you are a French person, every single Disney is in French, so you don't get accents. Anyway, also when I watched The Little Mermaid with my housemates, I also realized the cook was French, who's trying to cook Sebastian, and again I was like, why are all the French people in Disney assholes? Like I feel personally attacked, but also it's funny. Let's continue in the theme of TV shows. We have a deck that I think a lot of you have and a lot of you enjoy. This is my copy of the Game of Thrones Tarot. Again, this is a mass market deck. I'm pretty sure this is still available and you can still find it on all of your local bookshops or Amazon and all of that. It came with a cute little hardbound book, and honestly, don't sleep on this guidebook. This is really good. Really, really good. And what I love the most is the spreads. The spreads in this particular deck are so clever. Talk about a deck that is inspired by pop culture, but that is still a fantastic tarot deck. The Game of Thrones Tarot, probably one of my favorite tarot deck that is inspired by pop culture, because it's just very clever. Like, you can tell whoever created it took time and that there was intention behind it, even just in the choices of spreads, because there's plenty of them and they're really good. We have one inspired by the Old Gods of the North, one inspired by the Red Keep. This is one of my favorite one, which is Face of the Seven. It's really awesome. Like, it's not basic at all. Honestly, so many spreads. What I love, first of all, is that the name of the characters are given. So if you forgot who's represented, if you've not watched the show for a while or whatever, then you can look at who's represented. Keywords, we have upright meaning, reverse meaning, and it does give you the explanation as to why they've chosen this particular character for each of the cards. So even if you don't agree with the choices, even if for you were like, oh no, this person is not a page of swords, they're a page of wands in my head, at least here you have the explanation as to why the creator chose them to depict that way. And so I think that's very helpful, and I appreciate when artists do that, because even if I don't agree with the choices, if I can understand where they come from, it's already half the battle won, right? And suddenly I can read with the deck a lot better. So here are the backs, which of course are the throne for the Game of Thrones. And here we go. So I think there is a new deck that's coming out for House of Dragons, but to be honest, I'm not sure because I haven't started the new House of Dragons series. I've watched the first season and it was like 2 years ago. So of course I forgot everything that happened. And I know the second season is coming out. So honestly, I need to rewatch the first one and I need to watch the second one, but I've been waiting for the episodes to kind of like pile up so I can binge it, because I'm really not a patient person, if you couldn't tell. I'm an Aries sun. I like to binge TV shows, especially when I'm getting into it, so I wanted to wait until like season 2 was almost finished so I could just binge it. Honestly, I need to do a rewatch of Game of Thrones too, because it's been a couple of years, maybe even 3, since I've not rewatched, and it's one that I've enjoyed rewatching over the years because it's like comfort show for me. I love fantasy. It's where I live and breathe and eat. Like fantasy worlds, you know, they make me feel cozy. I know a lot of people will rewatch shows like Friends or comedy shows, things like that, or even like cartoon for that kind of cozy comfort feeling. For me, if I need comfort show, I'm gonna be doing a whole rewatch of The Lord of the Rings, or I'll be doing a rewatch of Game of Thrones. Like whatever is fantasy is kind of like my comfort show, cozy type of vibe. So to go back to this tarot deck, the choices are very clever, they make sense. I think even though, again, for some of the cards, I don't necessarily agree with like choosing this character for this particular tarot archetype, I understand why they do it this way. So I can get behind it. And honestly, for I would say like 85% of the cards, I agree. It's really clever. It's really well done, and every time I've used this deck, I have had some kick-ass reading. This is definitely an Emperor type of deck. It gives you that Emperor vibe, conquest. If you're trying to achieve your goals, if you're trying to channel that Emperor vibes, this will do it. I've used it in my pick a card readings even, and even you guys were like, wow, I didn't know I needed that deck, but actually it's really good. Like, this is a surprisingly good, clever tarot deck that you don't necessarily think will be, because you're like, oh, it's pop culture, it's Game of Thrones, yeah, but it's like, yeah, it's Game of Thrones, but actually all of the scenes that they've included for each of the tarot cards are really impactful. I love her for strength. The Hermit, again, perfect choice, I think. It's just really awesome. And yeah, there was a renaming spears for wands. So everything is the same except wands are spears. Let's move on to an indie tarot deck that this time is inspired by reality TV, specifically The Bachelor. Now, I've never actually watched The Bachelor, but I've watched my fair share of reality TV. So this year I was very curious to try this deck. I finally got my hands on it. It is the Final Rose Tarot. This is an indie deck. It might be one of the most, sadly, copied deck I've seen. It's one of those that if you go on websites like AliExpress and all of those horrible copy websites, it's everywhere. So be careful if you want this deck. Make sure you're getting it from good, secure sources, because there's so many fakes out there. But I got my copy from Salon des Arcanes tarot deck online shop based in Europe. So that's where I got mine, so I'll make sure to leave the name of that in the description box. Here is what the box looks like. It comes with a little guidebook that like this, no pictures, but still very useful. And honestly, this is one that I've been relying on the guidebook quite a lot, especially at the beginning, because this has been renamed a lot. So here are the backs. And so like I was saying, this is definitely inspired by pop culture, specifically The Bachelor, or any kind of those like reality dating TV shows. And whilst I've never watched The Bachelor, I was always super curious about this deck because one, I thought that the pinks and reds were really pretty. I mean, let's be real, that's my very superficial side, but I can't lie that I thought it looked very cute. And two, I know so many of my tarot friends who swear by this deck for relationship readings, interpersonal relationship, tapping into connection with people, how people relate to each other, whether it's family, dating, romantic, all of that, friendships even. And so this year I was like, okay, let me finally check it out. I thought, why not? I don't have many decks that focus on this type of relationship theme, so I was like, let me just give this a go. So the one thing that is its strength and I guess its weakness at the same time is the fact that it's very, very renamed. So for the 4, we don't have the Emperor, we have the Bachelor. All of the suits have been renamed. We don't have like cups and pentacles and wands. We have flutes for cups. We have roses. I think roses are pentacles. Rings. Oh no, rings are pentacles. Roses are wands, I think. See, I don't even remember because I've not used the deck for a couple of minutes. Mirrors are swords. I know that for sure. And then I always get confused between roses and rings. So this is where, for me, I get lost a bit, is if I don't use the deck for a minute, my squirrel brain is like, what the fuck happened? And I forgot. I forgot the renaming, I forgot everything. So I have to, again, rely on one of my little cheat sheet and make sure that I use that to remind myself of which is which. That's for me the downfall of this deck, but honestly, it's my own problem. I struggle, generally speaking, with renamings of decks. Anyway, that's my own personal problem, that's my own fault. Some of you might be like very non-bothered by that and you might remember a lot easier than I do. Like the downside of it for me isn't renaming, but it's also its strengths, because actually a lot of all the cards have also keywords, and those keywords are really unique and they're fun and they're a unique way to look at a tarot archetype differently. It's giving me a little bit of that millennial tarot vibe, which also has a key phrase for each of the ones, and which is also very related to pop culture and all of that. So I don't have that one, but this, I like the key phrases. So for me, the renaming, it's both a strength and a struggle. But again, it's very biased opinion, obviously. Like most of these videos, right? These are all my personal opinions, so if you don't agree, it's okay. We can all have different ones. I enjoy this one. I've realized that if I don't use it for a bit, I need to go back to the guidebook and refresh my memory. But I love the artwork and I love the key phrases, and every time I've used it for interpersonal relationship, or even like for readings around how people see you versus how you see yourself, those type of questions, oh baby, it is really, really good. I've used this in my, I think it was, yeah, how people see you versus how you see yourself. Pick a card. I leave it in the card. Pick a card inspired by the lovers. As part of my series of video called #YourFoolsJourney, I'm doing a pick a card reading inspired by each major arcana. For the lovers, I used this deck as one of the options in the pick a card reading, and yeah, it was really awesome. So definitely a fun one if you enjoy reality TV, if you enjoy especially like the dating type of reality TV. I use this when I watch like Love is Blind, and I was using this to try and practice my predictive readings and figure out, okay, are these people gonna stay married, are they gonna divorce and stuff. And this one was super fun to use for that. I had some really fun readings with that, and it helped me like hone in my intuition. So yeah, this is a fun one, the Final Rose Tarot. I'm gonna be keeping my favorite ones towards the end, so make sure to stick till the end to get my favorite decks, pop culture inspired, because I have a few awesome gems. So I'll leave my favorites towards the end, but for now let's talk about one that's having a little bit of a sleep in my tarot collection. This one is on standby, you guys. This one is in the corner, sulking right now. This is a literary tarot by, I forgot. It's a charity, I think, that done that. By Brink Literary Project, who are a non-profit. It was a Kickstarter I backed ages ago, and it was a Kickstarter that took a really long time to be created. So between the time that we like backed the Kickstarter and that we got the deck, over 2 years went, maybe even 2 years and a half. That doesn't necessarily bother me, but the reason why this is on standout is because when I backed this, I was more excited about it than by the time it arrived. And I'll explain to you why. So right now this is having a little bit of a sleep in my tarot collection. As you can see, I've put it back in order. I don't know if it's still available or not. I'll put the name of it in the description box and you can do your research. The theme of this deck, as the name suggests, the literary tarot, is that it is inspired by classic literature. So as someone who loves reading, this is why I wanted the deck originally, because I thought the theme was super cool. So here are the backs, which are honestly really beautiful, and honestly the artwork is gorgeous. Apparently it's stuck on the 3 of quills, which is funny because it's kind of how I've been feeling about this deck. So I don't know what's going on here, but yeah, there we go. Even the cards are like, fuck you, Marine. Artwork is beautiful, and each card depicts a different classic literature character story, and so in the guidebook it will tell you all of the different books and stories and short stories and stuff that are referenced in the tarot deck. And even the gold details is nice. I mean, the quality of the cardstock is not amazing, as you've seen. Even though I've barely touched mine, it's already doing some weird bending and stuff, so not the best quality, to be honest. But you know, I'm not a cardstock snob. It's not really what bothers me. What bothered me the most with this one is actually talking about renaming. The suits have been renamed in this one, and they make no sense to me. And because I'm a petty bitch, I can't get over it. So the majors I love, like this choice for the Chariot, absolutely. For strengths, we have Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Yeah, like so many of the choices for the majors are awesome, really awesome. And when you read the guidebook, it makes sense. Look, when we also had different options, I should have said there was added cards. So we had a few death cards, like look at Dracula for death, beautiful. Honestly, so many of those majors are awesome. And yeah, like I was saying, the guidebook does explain to you what the stories are and why it was chosen and all of that. So as far as the major go, I was very excited. We had a ton of extra cards. Love it, beautiful. It's when we come to the minors that I start to cringe a little bit, and that is because they were renamed Ink, Light, Quills, and parchment. So for parchments, they are pentacles, which makes sense. Parchments, first off, even P and P, pentacles and parchments, I can get on board with that. And parchments are something that I can touch. So pentacles for me are related to the material world. So yeah, I can get on board with that. Quills are swords, which again, quills are pointy, swords are pointy, so I can get behind that. And quills, you know, are feathers associated with air, much like swords. I can get behind that. When we go between cups and wands, that's where I get very annoyed, because we have ink and we have light, and you would think that ink being liquid are cups, and that light being linked to fire would be wands. But no, ink is wands in this deck, and light is cups. And they even explain it here. We have wands to ink, which wands corresponds to passion, willpower, and inspiration. And in our tarot, ink represents these ideas swimming in our mind. Yeah, but if it's swimming, it should be cups, right? I'm sorry, ink, it's liquidy, it feels like water, it should be linked with cups. And then light, emotions, imagination, intuition, which is corresponding to cups. But for me, light, it's a spark. We literally have a spark here. So how is that linked to cups? That makes no sense to me, because cups is related to water normally. And like most of the time, you'll see swords and wands interchanged in tarot decks who are not following like traditional system, but trying to change a little bit water and fire, or wands and cups. Not today, Satan, no way. Which is why I've not used this deck, and it's on sleepy time, and yet I can't get rid of it. Because every time I try to, something stops me, because a lot of the choices behind the cards make a lot of sense, because the artwork is gorgeous, because a lot of these books I've read and I've enjoyed, especially in my English studies. It's just like there's something about it that I want to keep holding on to. So there we go. Not all of them are successes. This is one that is not a full-on success for me, and yet somehow I can't get rid of it. Probably what I should do is just cut that, I think, and just write on the cards. That might make it better, but I mean, the backs are so pretty, I don't really want to cut them. What I really need to do is get over myself. Let's be real. I'm ridiculous. I know that. I'm self-aware. But until I can do that, for now, it's on sleepy time. Let's talk about my newest pop culture inspired deck. It's fun, it's cute, it's a little RWS, the 8-bit fantasy tarot. This might be the smallest tarot deck I own. Look at the size of my hand next to it. I mean, you should know that I have orc hands. I don't have dainty little girl hands. My hands are massive. If I slap you, you're gonna roll against the wall because I have very large hands. So for me, this is even more dainty. But if you have cute little dainty hands, this is fantastic. I didn't expect this to be so small when I ordered this, and honestly, I ordered this on a whim on Etsy because it was cute, and it cost me like 10 euros, I think. I just got it because it was cute. I've said this before in another video, I think, but I'm a simple girl with simple needs, and sometimes I will just get something because it's cute. That's it. And honestly, this was one of them. It was cute, it was free shipping. Okay, add to cart. So this is super small, but it's a full 78 card deck. It's by Vermilion Collection, and it is gaming inspired. I mean, it's giving you that gorgeous 8-bit style that is reminiscent of my early gamer, playing on my Game Boy, looking after my Tamagotchi. Oh my god, those were the days. I've always been a little bit of a gamer. I played video games since I was, I don't know, 7 or something. So I've been a gamer for a long time, even though not a hardcore one. I definitely have very fond memories of playing on my Game Boy, and then on the Sega Mega Drive. Did you guys have that? The Sega one? Ooh, I love the Sega, because you had Sonic on that, which was my favorite, and Tamagotchi, obviously, like goals, you know. So yeah, this is honestly fun. It's a little RWS in that early video game style. It's very nostalgic to me, and the size is super small, like honestly super small. At first I was quite surprised, and I was like, oh no, is it too small? But then I thought no, because actually when I want to, first for like putting in your bag, it's great, takes zero space. And then for doing large spreads and still being able to take pictures of it, it's super cute and very practical. So honestly, this is actually going to be one I can see myself using quite a lot because of how small it is. I think for doing really large spread on small places, it's going to be very practical, because sometimes when I go to my friends, we end up putting the cards and I end up doing huge spread for her, for example. There's not enough space on the table, whereas this one, it's like so small and cute that even if you don't have much space, you'll be able to do large spreads, wheel of the year type spreads, all of that. Super cute, nothing too major. For all of my nostalgic gamers and all of my fellow geeks out there, you'll enjoy this one. Let's continue on the theme of pop culture, and this is not necessarily related to a specific lore or a specific theme like movie or anything. This is just generally pop culture inspired. There's a bit of everything here. There's some Disney characters, some Marvel characters, and honestly it's just a good time, plus it's super cute. It is the Cookie Story Tarot by Destiny deck. I'm not sure if this is still in print or not, so you'll have to do your own research, but Destiny decks are usually available on Etsy, and I think there are a few retailers as well that sell their decks, but this is the first edition, I think. I have copy 408 out of 1000. Some of their decks they reprint under different editions, so this might be one that they're reprinting. As for old Destiny deck, you always have a ton of cards, certificate of authenticity and stuff. As the name suggests, this is a deck that is based around Cookie Land, where everyone is a cookie, is surrounded by cute little cakes and candy and all of that, but the added layer on top of that is that there's a lot of pop culture character. And honestly, I'm a big sweet tooth, okay? I love cakes, I love chocolate, and I love pop culture. So when I saw this, I was like, come on, this is too cute. I can't not get it. So this is another one I've had for a few years. The characters are little cookie people, but if you look closely, you'll realize there's a lot of pop culture references. So here we have Sleeping Beauty with Maleficent in the back. There is some relating to Disney and Marvel, like I was saying. For example, the Five of Wands is Inside Out, which is so cute. Oh my god, I freaking love Inside Out. Let's see who else we can find. Some of them I don't actually know who they are, so I'm not super familiar with all of the different references here, with all of the different pop culture references, but some of them are very obvious. So here we have Aladdin for the Six of Pentacles, sorry. We have Popeye here. This, I'm not sure who that is. This one, I think this is Wonder Woman, right? So we have Wonder Woman. This one, I don't know who that is. A lot of you will probably know. So I am not 100% familiar with all of the ones represented, but when you do kind of notice which ones they are, it's always a fun surprise, like Cruella de Vil for the Queen of Wands, for example. And yeah, it's a fun, cute little deck. It's one I really enjoy using. I think, again, this must be Wonder Woman, right? Let's see. I don't know who this one is. I know it must be like a Marvel character, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm not a big Marvel girl, to be honest. We have the Nine of Swords with Alice in Wonderland here, who's too small to reach the cake. Sailor Moon for the Queen of Swords. This is just a fun time. Still functions as a good tarot deck because a lot of the archetypes are respected, and there was a lot of intention put behind. Like for the Ten of Cups, we have the Addams family, which I think is fun. We have Tinkerbell for the Five of Cups, and even some random ones such as Leonardo da Vinci for the King of Pentacles, painting the Mona Lisa. This is a fun little deck. It's cute. It's a good time. I enjoy it. It brings me joy. Every time I use it for people, they enjoy it because it's nice and it's almost like, okay, yeah, it might be telling me things I don't want to hear, but at least it's doing it in a cute, fun way. Let's move on to one of my favorite TV shows of all time, Drag Race, RuPaul's Drag Race. I'm a huge Drag Race fan. If you were not aware, I've been watching it since season 3 was airing, so many years now. I don't know, is that a decade? Probably. Yeah, my friends and I were watching it in London as soon as season 3 was airing, and I've just kind of never stopped watching it, and I have many fond memories of my friends and I watching it together. I just freaking love drag queens. Drag as an art form is something that brings me a lot of joy, and so I've watched Drag Race, I watch All Stars, I watch a lot of the international franchises, something that I share with my friends that has like bonded also our friendship. So I'm very grateful for Drag Race, for drag queens, for drag in general. It's literally one of my favorite TV shows of all time. So I've got 2 Drag Race decks actually. The first one was a present from one of my friends because obviously she knows how much I love it. It's the RuPaul's Drag Race tarot cards, and this one is a mass market one, I think. Super fun. I actually edged my copy in different colors. On each of the card you're gonna see a different drag queens from Drag Race, and it tells you actually who it is. So this is a very fun deck, it's a very colorful deck. I love that there's so many different drag queens represented. The only thing I will say is that you literally for each of the cards have a drag queen, but you don't have a depiction of what it means, right? The Ace of Swords, what does it mean? Or the Sun, what does it mean? So if you're not familiar with tarot, it could be very difficult to use this as a tarot deck. I personally have no problem because I'm familiar with what it means for the Knight of Pentacles and stuff, but I think if you are a beginner, this is going to be very hard to use. So in terms of a practical tarot deck, this is not for me the most practical tarot deck, but it was a gift and it's a fandom I freaking love, and so many of these drag queens I love and adore and watch. One of my favorite drag queens, Alice Edwards, for sure. Just so fun and has given us many iconic lines, and I think she's coming back on Global All-Star and I freaking cannot wait because my friends and I still quote her on the daily. Yeah, this is definitely for Drag Race lovers. Is it the most practical tarot deck, the most readable tarot deck? No, I don't think so. It's still a deck I really enjoy because it was a gift and because it's nice to see all of these drag queens celebrated. So yeah, that's the Drag Race Tarot, RuPaul's Drag Race Tarot card that is mass market that I have. I have a second Drag Race deck because like I said, I'm a freaking huge Drag Race fan. This second one is actually a indie deck by a Mexican artist. It was a deck I backed on Kickstarter. Is this, yes, maybe this is my first Kickstarter ever. Literally maybe 2019 this was. Fortune Queens by Juanjo Cristiani. On Instagram they go as Enjoy My Cake. This is volume 1. They've done volume 2 with newer queens, and I think recently I've seen on their Instagram they were doing a Mean Girls tarot deck which looked awesome, but I was like, okay, I mean I like Mean Girls but not as much as I like Drag Race. So this is definitely more up my alley and I'm very grateful I got my hand on this. This is very me. Very me and my friendship group. The cards are huge, so that's something you should know. The cards are definitely big, and it comes with a guidebook. This looks like this, where it's nice because you actually have for each of the card you have the name of who's represented and you have the moment, like which season they were on, which episode. So if you want to do a rewatch, it's super fun, especially if you want to see which runway this is referencing. It's nice to be able to do a rewatch. So here are the backs, by the way. The sides are pink, which also again super cute. This is referencing, I think this was 2019 or early 2020, so this is referencing a lot of the older seasons, right? The first like maybe 3 All-Stars. I mean, we're on All-Stars 9 by now, so I think this stops at like All-Star 3 if I'm not mistaken, but it definitely doesn't show any of the more recent queens. However, personally, because I've started watching on season 3 and I watched season 1 and 2 backwards as well, I love a lot of these queens because they're the first ones that I fell in love with. So honestly, I'm very happy that this referenced a lot of the queens that for me are absolute icons. This is giving Drag Race Eleganza Extravaganza, and I am so here for it. Like, come through Manila for the 9 of Cups, yes. And I love that pasta dress, it was so cute. We just have so many awesome queens here, and again it's that for me era. I mean, Trixie for the Knight of Cups, it's that early era of Drag Race when it was starting to get famous, I think, but not as hugely as it is now. I mean, now you've got so many franchises, so many queens. Like right now, at the time of me filming, Drag Race France just finished, Drag Race All-Star just finished, there is currently Canada versus the World airing, we are about to start Global All-Stars, I think Mexico is also airing. there's like literally every week you can watch a new franchise. I don't think there's one week in the year where something Drag Race is not happening. And you know what? I live for that, but that can also be a little bit overwhelming. And there's something very nostalgic about this early part of, this. Love that. Just so fun. Yeah, there's something very iconic about these early seasons, right? The early seasons of Not Today Satan and of Go Back to Party City Where You Belong. Like, Drag Race is not a contact sport, and back rolls. Like, yeah, just so many fun moments that I have many fond memories of watching with my friends, and I freaking love this deck. So yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite pop culture deck because it's one of my favorite franchises. It's one of my favorite shows on TV, and it's something that I still watch, something that I still enjoy, something that brings me so much joy. These are just top 4, I would say, of my pop culture. Let's start with something that is very surprising that I got this year that I didn't think would make it to my top 4 of pop culture decks, but that I'm obsessed with. It is the Little Avatar Tarot. I freaking love this so much. Like, so much. It's ridiculous how much I love this. I'm a very late bloomer when it comes to watching Avatar The Last Airbender, which is what this tarot deck is inspired by. And yet this is something that I know a lot of you watch when you were kids or when you were like teenagers and stuff. Along my grown-up life, I was recommended to watch Avatar The Last Airbender a lot. People were telling me it was great, it was insightful, and it was not just for kids, and there were lessons there. So this year, finally, I decided to watch it, and oh my god, you guys, I fell in love so much for this TV show, for this story, for these characters. I'm ready to do a rewatch, and I only watched it like 3 months ago, and I would happily rewatch it all already. That tells you how much I freaking loved it. I felt so bonded with these characters, with these stories, with this world. I love the story behind it. I love the spirituality that is constantly woven throughout, the lessons, the philosophy behind it, the fun side of it too, because this is an anime for kids originally, but honestly, this is not just for kids. If you're a grown-up kid like me, if inside your head you're still 10, you would love this. And actually, it has so many beautiful spiritual lessons here about caring for one another, about respecting differences, about learning how to cope with grief and loss, about war and about peace, and so many different, like, deeper, intense subjects that are not, you wouldn't necessarily think are related to a kids TV show. This is definitely not just for kids. Whatever age you are, I can't recommend you enough to watch Avatar The Last Airbender. It will rock your world, and it's just beautiful story. Even the Netflix adaptation of the TV show is not so bad. I enjoyed it, but there's something about the anime that's very comforting. And like I said, even though I finished watching it only 3 or 4 months ago, I could do a rewatch already. I just enjoyed it so much, so much. And this deck is absolutely one of the best tarot decks that I've seen that relate to pop culture theme, because this is inspired by Avatar The Last Airbender, and yet this is also choosing scenes from TV shows that are matching perfectly with the energy of each card. Like this depiction of the Queen of Fire, if you watch the show, makes so much sense. The competition between these 3 friends from the Fire Nation also makes so much sense for the 5 of Air. Like, if you've watched the show, you will see that honestly each choice is impeccable. I have nothing bad to say about this deck, the choices that were made. This is extremely clever. Fool, we have Aang, who's the main character. It's his journey. He's the avatar, the last airbender. He has to discover how to master all 4 elements. So he has to go to all the different regions to learn from different benders how to master earth and fire and water. So it makes sense that he's the fool because it's his journey. In the chariot, it depicts his stand trying to fight for something. I don't want to spoil you, so I won't say too much, but honestly, this is just super smart. If you're a fan of the show, look, we have Aang here with the 4 elements. And for the magician, brilliant. And I don't say that lightly, but this is truly perfect. There's not one card I disagree with. And the only thing I wish is that I had the large version. Any other decks, I have really, even my favorite decks, I only have one copy of each, but this is one I could see myself wanting the regular copy because I just like this so much. So yeah, the little Avatar Tarot. I forgot to say it's an indie deck by Push Kitty. It's a fan art deck. If you've never watched Avatar The Last Airbender before, do yourself a favor, check it out, you'll thank me later, I promise you. The last two are definitely top 2, so I guess this makes this number 3. This is a very new deck in my collection, but it has just imposed itself as being very awesome and a very great reader. It is the Legends of Zelda Tarot, inspired by, as you guessed it, the Legend of Zelda video games. This was a Kickstarter I backed last year, and I finally got my hands on it this year. I don't know if they're planning for a reprint, so I'm sorry, but like I said in my intro, I'm sharing this in the spirit of sharing with you for my fellow deck lovers. This is inspired by the Zelda games and Legend of Zelda, the world of Hyrule, and of Link and Zelda, all the wonderful beings that exist in this world. I've always been a gamer. I was never a hardcore gamer, but I've been playing video games since I was like, I don't know, 7 or something. So I've definitely been a gamer for most of my life. Zelda in particular, most and specifically the latest 2 games of Zelda, I have clocked many hours, probably over 100 hours for each game. The last year when Tears of the Kingdom came out, my god, I was obsessed with that for months. I clocked like 120 hours of it. It's a game I still enjoy logging in and having fun with regularly. And so when this was on Kickstarter, it was a no-brainer because there's so many fun memories and so many scary memories associated with playing Zelda that I just could not resist. Zelda is the perfect mix between people who want to fight monsters and do things hardcore and people like me who just like to forage mushroom and have fun discovering places and giving that cozy game vibe. I think Zelda can bridge the two because I'm more of a cozy gamer myself. I don't really like fighting like monsters and stuff. I get scared easily, and especially in Zelda, every time I had to go into the abyss, ooh baby, I was freaked out. I was like, no, please don't make me go where it's dark and scary. These fucking things, absolutely hell no. The hands from the devil, big nope. Like there's so many things about Zelda that I hate because it's scary or because it freaks me the fuck out and I just want to run in the opposite direction and throw my control away. But there's so many things that are cozy and fun and light, like discovering all of the wells and finding in all the caves and stuff, finding this thing and collecting all the gems and collecting all the mushrooms and cooking and exploring, and the sky in the latest game, Tears of the Kingdom, discovering all of the islands on the sky. That was my favorite part. There was something so satisfying about flying, and it gave me a lot of like good times, peaceful times, also scary times, but just, I don't know, just something that is very dear to my heart that I enjoyed so much. And this deck is actually really well done. I've really enjoyed it using it this year. I've had some really cool readings with it. I've used it in my pick a card readings. All the choices make sense. I love this as a star. If you've played the latest game, you know that this is just heartbreakingly beautiful. The perfect star card in my opinion for this Zelda game. The Queen of Coins as the fairy, where you have to go and spend your hard-earned cash to go and get outfits. Yeah, she's here collecting your cash, honey, and so she deserves it. This temperance is beautiful. It's just, yeah, very sweet. And of course, this is my favorite part of Hyrule. If I had to say where I would want to go, if I could go to Hyrule, absolutely I would want to go to the Korok Forest because they're so cute. The Legend of Zelda, super big surprise. I didn't think I would enjoy this as much. I literally backed it on Kickstarter because I was like, it's about a video game that I love, but I didn't expect the tarot deck to be so well thought out, and yet it is, and I freaking love reading with this year. I don't want to put it down. So yeah, it had to be in my top 5. Let's continue. We're in the top 2 and we have to talk about one of my favorite pop culture inspired tarot deck ever, and one of my favorite lore ever, the Lord of the Rings tarot. So this is an indie deck. I found it on Etsy. If you type the Lord of the Rings tarot on Etsy, you'll find it. This particular sellers, they've done actually a few different pop culture inspired deck. I think they have a Persona 5 one and stuff like that. Here is what the box looks like. The cards are very long, as you can see, and a bit thinner than your regular tarot size, but definitely longer. And the sides are this beautiful gold holo. This is inspired by one of my favorite lore that exists in the world. It's the Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, all of that world are just part of a universe that bring me a lot of comfort, that every time I'm sick or I'm going through a bad bout of chronic pain, or I'm flaring up and I'm having a shit time, I will be rewatching The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit and find a lot of comfort there. Like I said, a lot of people will watch stuff like Friends or Family Guy. I just want to watch The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. That's my cozy watch. I'm a fantasy girly through and through, and so the Lord of the Rings is very close to my heart. I love reading the books as well. I had to have a Lord of the Rings tarot, like it was non-negotiable. But finding a good one was not easy. There is a mass market one that exists by Insight Edition, which in my humble opinion is not very good. I'm sorry, the miners are very lazy and just I wasn't vibing with it. This, however, I really love because all of the cards are actually illustrated, and as you can see, the majors are in color and the minors are in this sepia tone. For the majors, you have the name of the character. For the minor, you don't. The one thing I always say when I show this deck is that there's a couple of spelling mistakes. It doesn't bother me. This is by a creator that I believe English is not their first language, and so there's a couple of mistakes on the spelling of the cards. I don't really care, but I like to say it because I know some people it will bother them. I just love this world. I love the depiction. I love the choices. We have Gandalf for the magician. We have Eowyn for the Queen of Swords, which I think is perfect, right? If you think about her storyline. And again, she's here for the lovers, which I think is really great. For the Nine of Cups, it's interesting. We have the dragon from The Hobbit. Interesting choice, but I really like it. It's just a really good deck, and this has one of my favorite Hanged Man of all times, which I don't know if we've passed it already, but every time I get it, oof, there we go. We have Boromir for the Hangman, which is just perfect in my opinion. If you have watched or read The Lord of the Rings and you know of Boromir's story arc as a character, as sacrifice, surrender, changing perspective, changing your mind, and having to sacrifice yourself in the end is everything that he represents. So this is probably one of my favorite depictions of the Hangman ever. And did I find, yeah, there we go, just to show you an example of the spelling mistake. It's like, for example, the Wheel of Fortune, it says the Wheel. It really doesn't bother me. And I love Frodo for the Wheel of Fortune, because honey, yes, poor Frodo, the wheel was up but the wheel was down a lot, and yet throughout the whole thing it was his destiny, it was his fate, and nobody could carry the ring but him. He was a ring bearer. Fate had chosen him. Why I enjoy this deck is that yes, it's about a lore and a world that I love, but also the choices make sense. For the star we have Gil-galad. Yeah. For strength, we have Legolas. Yeah. And the chariot is Gimli, which again is freaking awesome. I don't know if we've passed it already. And the moon, we have Saruman. Absolutely. Saruman, the wizard that goes from being a good to evil, that ends up falling prey to his fears and to the dark side almost. Perfect representation of the moon, fluctuability of the moon. This is just really well thought out. Well thought out, the intention, the match between the characters' energy with the energy of each tarot archetypes, each tarot cards are well thought out, that this makes a very practical, good tarot deck. We love that. Okay, let's wrap it up with probably my favorite pop culture deck ever. I don't think it's ever gonna be dethroned, to be honest. It's gonna be very hard to dethrone this one because it's just the best of the best. And I need to preface this by saying this is out of print and this is very hard to find. Again, I'm so sorry, but Like I was saying in my disclaimer, this is just a video of me sharing my collection. It's not QVC. If you really want it, you can probably find it on eBay. Just be aware that this is gonna go for a crazy amount of money because it's one that's very out of print. This is the Soul Shadow Tarot by Yahaha from the YouTube channel Soul Shadow Tarot. I'll make sure to leave her tarot channel down below. She's a very prolific deck creator and she's also a tarot reader. She has a YouTube channel. She has tarot courses. She's just super creative, super awesome. I love what she does. I've been following her for years. This was, I think, her first deck in 2019 and I was following her already when she started her channel, and so as soon as she published this deck I got my hands on it, but this is now hard to find and it is my favorite pop culture deck ever because I think it's the most clever pop culture deck that has ever been made. So here we will have reference to famous movies, famous musicians, famous TV shows and characters and comics, and Yahaha herself is a huge pop culture fan, pop culture lover. You can tell in the way that she created this deck because there's a lot of inspiration from like a lot of TV shows and stuff that we love and enjoy, and the choices that she assigned for each of the cards to me makes so much sense. Like Justice for Yoda is brilliant. So this is the best one that I have and I doubt it's ever gonna be replaced, to be honest, because this is just so smart. Like there's nothing like it. Like I said, I really love the Lord of the Rings, I love the Zelda one, I love the Avatar, but in terms of the deck that is inspired by several pop culture references, this is still the best one out there. It's my favorite pop culture deck, so I wanted to share it with you. The Eight of Wands with Arya. Yes, we just saw another one of my favorite cards. We have for the Magician, Obi-Wan Kenobi, another huge favorite. Honestly, all the choices make so much sense to me. I mean, the Eight of Swords with Amy Winehouse, absolutely. Just super smart. So I love this one. This deck is a Gemini. I think it's very chatty, this deck. And I love it. For Temperance, we have Korra from The Legend of Korra, which I actually haven't seen yet because I loved Avatar The Last Airbender so much that I wasn't ready to move on to new characters, but I really need to watch it because I know it's a continuation of the world, but I've heard also a lot of people who haven't loved as much Korra than compared to like Avatar The Last Airbender. So, but yeah, even the Good Fairy for the Queen of Cups is just really cool. There's some Disney reference here. Four of Swords, we have one of the dwarf from Snow White. For the Three of Wands, we have the Lion King. For the Four of Pentacles, we have, I don't know his name in English, but in French we call him Picsou. And freaking live for Picsou. So my friends, this was my last deck I wanted to share with you. These were all of my pop culture decks, oracle decks, playing cards, and mostly tarot. I hope you enjoyed it. If I had to say a lore or pop culture kind of world that I don't have a deck from that I would love to have one, it would be, like I was saying, a Pixar deck would be fun, or even like a match to the Disney villain, that would be really fun. And even getting my hands on a larger copy of the Avatar tarot, that would be really fun. You know what? I think a Hunger Games tarot deck would be pretty freaking fierce. I'm surprised no one has ever done that, maybe because Hunger Games is a bit older, but I think it would be really cool as a tarot deck. There would be a lot of stuff to explore there. So there you go, that's my 2 cents. I would love to know in the comments what are either your favorite pop culture inspired decks, or if they don't exist yet, what are the pop culture decks that you wish existed from your favorite book or your favorite movie or something. Let me know in the comments, let's chat. I love to read you, I try and respond to all of my comments. And if you made it this far, thank you so much for hanging out with me, I appreciate you so much. Until my next video, I'm sending you so much good vibes and keep navigating the waves of your soul. Bye!